Solving a Rubik's Cube takes patience and spatial reasoning, so naturally, it's not my thing. Welcome to the Goodish news channel. I'm Ashley, your professional pessimist. I'm filtering the news so you don't have to emotionally dissociate just to get through it. Today's lineup includes one story that will make you feel slow, one that'll make you feel smart, and one that might have you checking your attic for priceless historical artifacts. Solving a Rubik's Cube is one of those things that sounds easy until you actually try it. For most of us, it's a humbling experience that ends with a still scrambled cube and a bruised ego. For me, it's a great way to feel both stupid and completely defeated. In further damage to my self-confidence, there's now a robot that can solve it faster than I can blink. Or you, for that matter.
Ready, set, go.
A team of engineering students from Purdue University just set a new Guinness World Record by solving a standard 3x3 cube in a jaw-dropping 103 milliseconds with a robot they call Purdubik's Cube, which is a pretty good name when you consider that a group of engineers came up with it. I'm married to an engineer, so I've earned the right to poke fun at the profession a little bit. And if it makes you feel any better, he can solve a Rubik's Cube, and as we've already established, I can't. Anyway, back to blinking. Most humans blink between 200 and 300 milliseconds. So by the time you've blinked, the Purdubik's Cube has solved the puzzle, packed up, and has probably found a surefire cure for hiccups. The Rubik's Cube was invented in 1974 by Hungarian architect Erno Rubik. Since then, it's become the world's best-selling puzzle toy with over 350 million sold. There are more than 43 quintillion possible ways to scramble one. That's a 43 with 18 zeros behind it. No wonder I can't solve it. The fastest human, Max Park, solved the cube in just 3.13 seconds. But robots have been in on the action too. The previous record for a robot was 0.38 seconds, set by Mitsubishi Electric in Japan. Yes, that Mitsubishi. So a small group of students with much fewer resources built a robot more than 3 times faster than that, and about 30 times faster than the human record holder. Here's how the robot does it. It uses high-speed cameras to scan all 6 sides of the cube. Then custom software calculates the solution instantly. Industrial-grade motors, so fast they'd make a race car jealous, twist the cube with such force, the team had to reinforce it so it wouldn't explode. Many parts were 3D printed or built by hand in the students' dorms and labs. I love a good DIY, but this one might be beyond the scope of my abilities. The robot can even mirror your scramble in real time using a Bluetooth-enabled smart cube. You mess it up and it solves it instantly. As I said, this wasn't a big corporate project. It started as a senior design challenge with a group of students and a lot of late nights. When Guinness World Records showed up to verify the result, even they had to double-check the timer. Solving a Rubik's Cube just isn't at the top of my to-do list, but if these students can create a robot to fold my laundry in 103 milliseconds, I'm all in.
Introducing Mabel, the robot housemaid.
Rubik's Cube solving robots? Impressive. But let's talk about something really advanced. Chimpanzees using homemade plant paste to treat each other's wounds. Move over, Dr. Dolittle, because our closest animal relatives have been spotted practicing first aid in the wild, and they don't even charge a copay. Researchers in Uganda's Bundongo forest have spent decades observing chimpanzees, and what they found is pretty interesting. When a chimp sustained a cut or scrape, maybe from a fight, a fall, or even a run-in with a human snare, they didn't sit around waiting for the wound to heal. Instead, they leapt into action with a little chimp first aid. Don't get too excited. They're not handing out alcohol wipes or wearing tiny white coats, though let's be honest, I would absolutely watch that reality show. The chimps use what they have on hand, a forest pharmacy, if you will. Chimps have been seen licking their wounds, which might sound gross, but saliva can actually help clean and protect injuries thanks to its antimicrobial properties. If you own a dog or cat, you've probably seen similar behavior. But that's just where it starts. It gets really interesting when the chimps reach for plants to treat their injuries. They'll chew up leaves from certain medicinal plants that local people also use for healing, and then dab the chewed up paste directly onto their wounds. Sometimes they even slap fresh leaves over a wound like a nature-made band-aid. But the best part is that chimpanzees were seen treating others' injuries, not just their own. And it didn't seem to matter if the other chimp was genetically related or not. The scientists didn't just stumble on this yesterday. They've compiled logbooks and video footage stretching back to the 1990s, cataloging dozens of cases of chimpanzee first aid. Some entries even describe chimps freeing their friends from traps and snares. Christine Webb, a primatologist at Harvard University, said, "The fact that chimpanzees treat not only themselves but also others suggests a level of social awareness awareness that is too often underestimated. It hints at an empathetic sensitivity that we typically reserve for our own species. When scientists tested samples, they found that many of the leaves and stems chimps chews are packed with antibacterial compounds, nature's Neosporin. And it's not just chimps. Orangutans and gorillas have also been spotted using natural remedies in the wild. In another part of Africa, researchers have seen chimpanzees using insects to treat wounds. They catch the bugs, squash them, and smear them on the wound. Gross? Absolutely. Effective? Apparently. Sounds kind of gross, but if it works, it works. All of this has scientists excited, not just because it's adorable, but because it offers a window into the evolutionary roots of medicine. Next time you reach for Neosporin and a Band-Aid, just be glad that humans have made it far enough that you're not using mashed up bugs and leaves to treat that paper cut.
Paper cut.
So far we've covered robotics, Rubik's Cubes, and forest first aid. Let's round it out with a medieval legal document misfiled by the smartest people on Earth. Harvard Law School recently made an incredible discovery. A document they thought was a cheap, unremarkable copy of the Magna Carta turned out to be an original. And a very rare one at that. This faded, water-stained parchment sat quietly in Harvard's library for nearly 80 years, probably next to a stapler and some stale pretzels. It was purchased back in 1946 for $27.50, which, adjusting for inflation, is about $450 today. A modest sum for what we now know is a priceless piece of history. So how did one of the most important legal documents in history go unnoticed for so long? I have to start off by saying that not all Magna Cartas are created equal. The Magna Carta was first signed in the year 1215 by King John of England, but the version Harvard owns dates from 1300, issued by King Edward I. Only 7 copies from that year are known to exist, which means Harvard accidentally bought one of the rarest documents in Western legal tradition for the cost of a moderately nice dinner. Professor David Carpenter, a medieval history expert from King's College London, was browsing Harvard's digitized archives. Some people binge watch TV, others binge read medieval legal documents. No judgment. Well, a little judgment. Carpenter noticed something unusual about Harvard's copy of the Magna Carta. It wasn't quite like the other copies he'd seen. Curious, he reached out to his colleague, Professor Nicholas Vincent, and together they launched an investigation. They compared Harvard's document to the 6 other known Magna Cartas issued in 1300 by King Edward I. They used ultraviolet and spectral imaging to uncover hidden details, like watermarks, ink chemistry, and the exact dimensions of the document. Sounds like a riveting episode of CSI Magna Carta. The verdict? Harvard's cheap copy was confirmed as one of only 7 surviving original copies from the year 1300. The Magna Carta is often called the foundation of modern democracy and human rights. It was revolutionary for its time because it limited the power of the king, establishing that even royalty had to obey the law. Concepts like due process, trial by jury, and protection from unlawful imprisonment all trace their roots back to this document. In other words, the rights and freedoms many of us enjoy today can be traced back to the Magna Carta. To put the value into perspective, one of these original 1300 Magna Cartas sold for over $21 million in 2007. So Harvard's purchase price of $27.50, let's just say it was a spectacular bargain. Harvard has no plans to sell this treasure. Instead, it will be preserved, studied, and displayed, giving scholars and the public a rare glimpse into the origins of constitutional law. It's a reminder that history sometimes hides in plain sight, and that even the most famous documents can still surprise us. So yes, Harvard Law accidentally owned one of the most important documents in Western civilization, and didn't notice for 80 years. Happens to the best of us.
I feel like an idiot over here.
If you're looking for more good news in your life, be sure to check out my video from last week, where I discuss a lost dachshund that was rescued from an island in Australia after 529 days on the run, a man who built up immunity to venomous snakes, and I cover some other interesting short news stories. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and consider subscribing so we can ignore all the bad news together.